It's just interesting the way history goes like that. How things can connect in really strange ways, and you realise eventually, once you know enough, everything starts getting all linked up together.
It's all just a series of references, I guess.
It's just one thing after another. That's history. I've really changed my tune on stuff like that quite recently. Snobbery about certain things. That's kind of a thing you do when you're coming of age. You define yourself by what you reject. I was thinking about this morning, and I've realised I've really done a 180 on that. I've sort of come to this realisation through music, really, in the last couple of years.
It's flattening of culture, it's kind of democratising content.
Well, what got to me is the fella going on about how irrelevant rock music is and how it's a terrible, terrible thing. It's the music that he liked, and it's almost like he's ashamed of himself. That no one thing is inherently more worthy of it than another just because of the time and place in which it's created. It's like there's this whole sort of zeitgeist, cultural context kind of aspect to things that because it's 2018 you've got to be embarrassed that the music that you want to play is this.
It's almost like they enjoy talking about the death of their genre more than they enjoy doing anything about it.
But we listen to Dark as the Night, Cold as the Ground, get something totally different from it, but because out of context it's still this amazing piece of work.
With the band, that wasn't even it. I think we eventually made a joke out of there not being any firm genre. I think like genre in general,
You can argue there's no such thing.
genre is just framework with which people can identify with, but it kind of holds things in a place. It doesn't allow them to develop. That's the interesting thing about the Netflix thing at the moment, where it's kind of democratizing content. It really does feel like in the coming years there's an uprising against tastemakers in a way. Like,
I'm kind of worried about that too, but like it's strange. I don't know where I fall on it because sometimes.
well, I don't think that we class as tastemakers, because there's such a thing as like reverse elitism. I think.
Absolutely,
Like,
that's probably what I am now. See,
are you a reverse hipster now?
Probably. No one could ever actually agree what one was. I could never. I was never 100% sure what one was, except that it was you.
The thing is, I think they are after a commercialised version of authenticity. Yeah, I think I've become... There are times where I've been very elitist in my opposition to elitism.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you want to try and always champion the stuff that's kind of denigrated for being too, like, populist. When you look at it, and obviously a lot of people are enjoying a certain thing, but the gatekeepers and the sort of tastemakers are set against it.
Enjoy this.
And yeah, it's popular. But I can kind of enjoy all aspects of that. Like the things that the tastemakers like, I like. But then I can also find something to enjoy in the things that people like, but the tastemakers hate, like Bright.
It's a weird sort of trend. Yeah, I quite like that trend. It's taking away the opportunity for a critic with an agenda to
kill a thing.
To kill a thing.
Nothing is binary anyway. You can be an idiot and think both sides of all these arguments. Like that thing that got shared about the woman who didn't want to go see Black Panther on the first weekend. She didn't want to be a white person in this film for black people.
She didn't want to steal their thunder, was it?
Yeah, she didn't want to. And it's like trying so hard to not be racist that you decide that segregation is the best option.
If there's anything that I've learned in my studies, it kind of goes hand in hand with people complaining about cultural appropriation, and it's kind of culture and art is really progressed by mixing things and by appropriating culture. It's just all the complaints about cultural appropriation and stuff and keeping things in these artificial borders. Whereas life is absolute chaos. Life is about, and art is about just mixing things and seeing what works, and the whole idea of being able to have originality. Well, originality isn't really a thing. Like authenticity and stuff comes from an applied usage of different things. You can't just sit there and imagine your own Lord of the Rings without referencing Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is a rewriting of Anglo-Saxon mythology
anyway. I don't get it. I don't get putting things in categories, genres, tastes.
There's a certain aspect of it which is useful, which is, I think, trying to avoid stereotyping cultures which actually exist and is kind of struggling for recognition now. That there is some aspect to that which is valuable. I do
like,
often wonder
you
about.
know-
You remember when we went through our period of listening to those Native American round dances on YouTube, and we
Yes.
wanted to get up and sing one?
Yeah,
It's like, is that cultural appropriation? Ultimately, I don't think it is, because we didn't do it because we want to be Red Indians. I mean, maybe when at
part
one
of
point
me
I was
did.
going to buy you a war bonnet, and
Yeah.
that would have been
Part of
a
me
step
did.
too far, probably. But ultimately, we were listening to this new form of music that we'd not heard before and really
Exactly.
enjoying it and
Yeah.
appreciating it. And the
Yeah.
thing that you tend to want to do if you find something new and
Mimic it,
exciting,
like-
you want to, you want to kind of take on some of its power for yourself.
yeah, the elements that you enjoy.
And I mean,
So-
they practiced that because they sort of, the way they dressed and spoke was entirely hip hop culture.
yeah,
But then they would get up and sing these like Lakota songs with drums and stuff. But
it's-
then there's nothing wrong with seeing a thing and appreciating it and sort of taking a part of it on and sort of
well, you
doing
do
something
anyway,
new.
but
Yeah.
merely by being the conduit that it's passed through, you've taken a bit of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be with you whatever you do. It's really strange. Like I feel like I learn more about accepting different cultures in food programs.
Yeah.
There's this really good food program on Netflix called Ugly Delicious. So the first
Christ.
episode was about pizza, and it was displaying. It was kind of the same sort of issues. The traditionalists that are withholding the Italian style of pizza,
Yeah.
which has to contain certain ingredients, will remain exactly the same till the end of time for as long
Yeah.
as that pizza society exists. And they've placed themselves hierarchically as the elite.
Yeah.
This is what this is. This is what this isn't.
Well, as soon as you get to a point where you've done that with anything, it's dead.
Exactly.
It's like totally different thing. But you know, in France, they have this thing called the Academy, which regulates how their language evolves. They had a meeting and invented a new French word for email that was not email, so that people wouldn't say email, they would say courriel. Such a top-down approach to language is just totally counter everything we're talking about. Because language is the ultimate example of like a democratized
Because
concept,
people,
because it evolves out of people talking to each other, like normal people talking to every day. Words evolve out of that.
but yeah, so in this pizza program, he then goes to this Italian American restaurant in New York, one of the best rated sort of pizza places ever, I guess. So he does most of the episode with the guy that runs the restaurant and his best friend, and they sit down in his restaurant when it's closed. And the trick is that he loves all pizza,
Yeah.
even Domino's. Right, this is a top chef, like Michelin star chef, I guess.
Yeah,
And he still thinks Domino's serves a purpose. He still likes it, so he orders Domino's, and they all sit and eat Domino's.
yeah.
And the guy that owns the restaurant is a little bit insulted. He's angered by Domino's. He's like, this isn't pizza.
Yeah.
And like, I just think that program, although it's about food, says more about art and more about taste, because it's about literal taste.